a bad time.
What the heck's going on?
Ma, Mr. Doback, we think it would be very prudent.
Can we turn our beds into bunk beds?
Yes.
Why are you guys so sweaty?
What is up? Welcome in. Why are you guys so sweaty? Because we are mock drafting. It is August. It's August 4th, the beginning of 30 mocks in 30 days here. We're doing at the Fantasy Football Universe, the double FU, the FU times 2. I'm Jeremy Schulman at FF_Rebel on Twitter. Thank you very much for joining us. And today we are doing a small format best ball mock draft. So we're going to talk you through a little bit of that. But the draft room is getting restless. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire it off here in just a couple of seconds. So let me just let everybody know. We'll start up the mock and we'll show you exactly what we're doing. So we are doing a PPR, full PPR rather, best ball mock draft. So a couple of things here to consider as you see the board, and I'll make it a little bit bigger for you so we don't have this issue. Maybe I'll put myself, let's see, how are we going to do this? That's not so bad. Okay. And you can see the board, you can see myself and see what we're talking about here. So again, small form best ball, a couple of things to keep in mind. The first of which is you're drafting the best players, right? Do not be so concerned about weeks 15, 16, 17 correlation. These are things that we talk about in big form best ball tournaments with thousands and thousands of participants. Those things can be important, but the bigger point here is you just want to hit on the right guys. That is what's going to give you the edge in your league against your 11, 9 other league mates who are likely some of your better friends. Another thing to consider is that you are not going to be on the waiver wire. So you want to be kind of safe with upside in your first few picks. At the same time, you always want to consider the format. If I'm looking here in best ball here at the 110, I've got 3 options staring me in the face, all at running back, but then Malik Neighbors. I'm going to go Christian McCaffrey. Yes, you want to go safe, but you also want to win your league. And if Christian McCaffrey is healthy, he is the biggest value on the board, especially in that first round. Again, full PPR here. So once again, this is one quarterback. We'll show you the league settings here so you get a sense of what we're working with. 1 QB, 2 running backs, 3 wide receiver. That's why you see wide receiver heavy in the beginning of the rounds here. 1 tight end, and then 2 flex position. We're only going 12 rounds here just to kind of make sure that this stays within the hour. But at the same time, it's going to give us enough time to kind of talk about what's happening here. So you see the first round, you got Chase, Bijan, and Gibbs. Barkley, those are really the standard top 4 with maybe CeeDee Lamb mixed in. Justin Jefferson just outside of that top group. He takes a slight hit. He's a little bit injured in camp. He's got a brand new quarterback that he needs to break in. Justin Jefferson's going to be fine, but at the 106, I think that he's appropriately valued there in any format. But of course, in best ball, he can absolutely explode. You see Puka, Derrick Henry, Amon-Ra. I went Christian McCaffrey, although you might see him fall to the second round, regardless of format. If he does, absolutely snag him wherever you can. And then Neighbors and Ashton Genty for the first round. Now, in the second round, we got Nico Collins, Brian Thomas, absolute studs, and you want guys who are absolutely going to explode. Remember, it is full PPR. It is not, tight end premium. It is not super flex. So in these cases, some of these guys are lesser in value. That said, Devon Achane is really good looking here, but I'm going to make a build with Brock Bowers because number one, he's an absolute stud at the position. He's a locked in top 3 tight end. And I want one of those guys. If I can get him in Bowers in the second round, is fantastic value, no matter where you get him there. But number 2, Geno Smith is incredibly easy to stack with Brock Bowers, and you can also grab Jacoby Myers. You certainly can't grab Genty, but if you're talking about a longer form draft with maybe deep benches, Raheem Mostert is an interesting value for sure. Deontay Thornton as well is super interesting in terms of those stacks. But Geno and Bowers, those are the guys I want to rely on. Those guys are already connecting in camp. No surprise there. And the Raiders' offensive line, as opposed to Seattle's offensive line last season, the Raiders' O-line is actually decent and can keep Geno a bit upright. I think that's part of the reason he went to the Raiders. Tom Brady, of course, heavily involved in that organization, bringing Geno over. And Bowers, Jacoby Myers, I mean, these guys are professionals at receivers. So Gino's in good shape there, and you see the second round to completion. So once again, full PPR best ball. So we're looking for upside. We're looking for spike weeks. And we want that from our top guys. But at the same point, you don't necessarily lose or win a best ball draft or any draft in the first couple of rounds, provided your guys don't get completely injured or don't go ridiculously nuclear. It's unlikely that the value here that you're getting is going to kind of spike you into, something that's going to win your league. But certainly, as long as these guys stay healthy, they're probably locks. So as we come up to our third pick here, again, we are looking for those spike weeks, and we are looking to fill wide receiver because it is 3 wide receiver, and we have faded wide out already. So we kind of need to smash that. I love T. Higgins in this format. Marvin Harrison is also really appealing, and we have George Kittle, who we could put in the flex. But I'm not going to be that bold. Yeah, it's going to be one of these guys. I love Amari Hampton, by the way, this year, but I'm going to see if he falls back to me in the early 4th. I'm going to go ahead and take T. Higgins, and we're going to see what happens here at the turn. Kittle goes immediately, James Cook, Mike Evans, and then Joe Burrow. At the quarterback position, you see Jalen Hurts is still available. Stacking considerations are there, but Joe Burrow just went. That's someone who I probably would have looked to. Amari Hampton is probably my guy here. Marvin Harrison is enticing. Alvin Kamara is enticing, but I really just think Hampton has that insane upside, and rookies are always of value no matter what draft you're in, provided they hit. Certainly Hampton could have some snags. He may not be used as much as we hope he will. Maybe Najee comes back week 1 and he's ready to go and he's full steam and gets his normal allotment of 250 touches. That's possible. But I want Amari Hampton locked in here on my best ball team, full PPR. I think he's probably, let's assume that he starts a majority of the season now with Najee's injury, as opposed to what I was assuming, which was just half of the season. If Hampton starts a full season, I would expect 35 receptions minimum for him, probably somewhere upwards of 50 to 55 targets minimum. And that's, coming from an excellent quarterback in Justin Herbert in an excellent scheme. So I think, he's locked in. And regardless, Najee Harris will likely fade away simply because age and the fact that Amari Hampton's better. He just needs to make sure that he picks up the playbook and is ready to roll from week 1, which at the moment is looking good. Let's have a look at the second round. Pretty straightforward. Drake London. You see those running backs, Bucky, Achane, Taylor, Jacobs, Chase Brown. And then in the third round, we start the quarterback run with Lamar, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels. In the 4th, Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. No surprise with those top 5 guys. In any draft that you see, you will see those top 5 quarterbacks. If you do not get one of those top 5 quarterbacks, you need to push the position. And I would go as far as to say, I know it's best ball. I know we want the best players. And for example, I'm not angry at Trey McBride and Josh Allen. I'm not angry at George Kittle and Joe Burrow, but I think it does cap your upside a little bit, regardless of format, when you are drafting early tight end and early quarterback, especially when your settings are looking like this, where you have 7 position players that you need to start on a given week. And again, in best ball, we're going to find some of those position players later on. We're going to find the guys who are going to spike for us for a couple of weeks. Xavier Worthy, if he hasn't been, Rashee Rice was just drafted. Xavier Worthy is still around there. He hasn't been drafted yet. Guys like Jameson Williams are going to give you at least 6 usable weeks where they're going to absolutely dominate, which is going to be fantastic. All right. So we push these guys up, but later in the draft, we're going to find guys who sneak into the lineup for 2-3 games and they can fill that out. So I don't hate it as much to go heavy on the early tight end, early quarterback, but you're still capping your upside. So just be careful of that. Because of that, because I chose Brock Bowers and because I don't love the quarterbacks here, obviously I'm going to push them. Mixon is hurt. We see tight ends here, so not a big fan. George Pickens and Tet McMillan. I would love to get Pickens here, but I think Tet is the play. Simply, again, that rookie upside. Other than him and Jalen Waddle, I'm actually going to go Waddle here and hope. Whoops, can I draft him? I'm going to go Waddle here and hope that Tet comes back to me. We'll see. Travis Hunter, another great pick. Tet taken just before. Hunter, another great pick, but I'm just not sure he gives us enough usable weeks. George Pickens is my guy in a Dallas offense. I'll take him, and then we'll talk about both Waddle and Pickens. Number one, if you haven't been keeping up with camp news, which, hey, it's the beginning of August, maybe you haven't, but the Miami Dolphins have not only traded away Minkah Fitzpatrick for, a couple of weeks ago for and Jonnu Smith. Sorry, they traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick, excuse me. They traded away Jalen Ramsey, but they also lost 2 additional corners to injury, one of which is done for the season. The other one is at least out for a while, if not done for the season. These are depth pieces, but keep in mind that they're starting Storm Duck is one of their starting corners who did not look very good last year in his rookie season. And I forget who the other one is. I believe it's, actually I looked earlier today, it's Jack Jones, former New England corner, and we know that those corners who come from the New England and that New England system tend to do worse at their next position, at the next team, simply because the scheme heavily favors corners, and we don't see that when who was it, Malcolm Butler, and I'm trying to think of, there were 2 of them who went to Tennessee with Mike Vrabel, and they just couldn't get the same production out of those guys. So Jack Jones and Storm Duck as starting corners in Miami with already a depth issue. It's Minkah Fitzpatrick. It's Melifonwu from the Detroit Lions, who hasn't really looked particularly good. My point in saying all of this in this best ball draft is the Miami defense is going to be worse than we expected it. I expect them to be a bottom 5 unit in the league. They have aging pass rushers. Jalen Phillips is hurt now, who's their only really young pass rusher. And so it's Jalen Waddle, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Devon Achane. You want to smash those guys wherever they're going. And so I'm happy to take Waddle there. Pickens, similar situation. Micah Parsons holding out for Dallas. So I want all pieces of the Miami and Dallas offenses. I'm very, very happy with that. So if I'm looking at my next pick here and we are talking about stacking, I want to make sure that I get kind of one of these guys, but I can wait. We are 4 point per passing touchdown. Caleb is interesting. Dak is interesting, especially with Pickens. Tua could be interesting as well. It is something that I want to consider talking about kind of this week 16, week 17 correlation. So when the time comes to pick quarterback, I will have a look at that, but that time is not now. The time right now is maybe to look at someone like Travis Etienne, Cam Scatterboo, and then of course you have guys like Deebo Samuel and Steph Diggs. Really appealing options here. And I have kind of all of my positions covered. So I'm just going to take best player available, but I do need to make sure that I get running back locked in full PPR. Travis Etienne to me is still the biggest value. The Tank Bigsby hype train will not let up. He's a fantastic value as well. But Travis Etienne, they continue to say that they're going to throw the ball a ton to Travis Etienne. So I'm very happy to take him here. Warren and Scatterbo are interesting, but I'm going to go ahead and take Steph Diggs. He's looked phenomenal in camp. We know what kind of player he is. And I believe it's his age 31 season. So we know Steph Diggs has kind of fallen off a little bit here, but it's not nearly enough to make him, someone who I wouldn't take in the 8th, 9th round of any format. And Steph Diggs, of course, is looking great in camp, and he's by far the best receiver on that Patriots team. So let's take a look at what we have right now. No quarterback, but our starters are filled out. So it's Christian McCaffrey and Amari Hampton, Travis Etienne at running back. Hopefully we'll have those guys, in the RB1 and RB2 slot in this best ball league throughout the season. Hopefully they stay fresh, they stay healthy. If not, we'll have to supplement with a few guys later on. We got T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, George Pickens, and Steph Diggs. I'm very happy with that wide receiver core. We'll have to grab probably 2 quarterbacks before we get out of here. And we'll look at Dak. He's perennially a value. And then we'll have a look at Geno Smith. He's someone who probably won't come off the board in the first 12 rounds. But Tua is always there as well to match up with our guys. And Brock Purdy may still be there too. Let's take a look at the board here and see what's going on. We have a receiver run. So after I took Diggs in the 8th, it was Shakir, it was Cooper Kupp, Godwin, Golden, and Pearsall. and then Emeka Egbuka. I love those guys, especially the rookies there, Golden and Egbuka. I think they're going to thrive in a best ball format. Ricky Pearsall as well. He's a little bit injured, but it could be Juwan Jennings. I really think the answer to the San Francisco puzzle is George Kittle. You see he goes at 311. He's always going at the end of the third round. That's an incredible value, especially when you consider that these two tight ends in Bowers and McBride are always going in the second. George Kittle could once again be the tight end one this season. So you look at the board, there's a couple of interesting values here that I love. Xavier Worthy at the 5.5. If Rashee Rice is suspended or isn't completely healthy or, doesn't really, return to that Rashee Rice role, or maybe Xavier Worthy is just kind of running, those Tyreek Hill routes 60 yards down the field. We know that Patrick Mahomes can get him the football. I love that value of the 505 in a best ball league. Someone also like Calvin Ridley at the 611 is really interesting. I mean, he's just someone who, we don't necessarily expect him to be the Jameson Williams, Xavier Worthy speedster, but he's going to be such a solid and reliable plug and play flex guy at minimum with 7 to 8 targets a game. I would expect they don't have the type of running back in Tennessee where they can just literally pound the football 30 times a game, right? They don't have Najee Harris. They have, Tony Pollard. Fine. He's done it before, but he is aging, and Tajay Spears. Between the two of them, I think we see something like 23, maybe 25 times a game. Cam Ward is going to be throwing the ball a lot more, I think, than people expect him to. And that's going to lead to some really, really interesting outputs here. All right. We're looking at running back here. Let's just take a peek at quarterback. Yeah, Purdy is available. So is Dak Prescott. But in 4-point, I think I'll push it a little bit, especially because everyone else has quarterbacks. And I'm going to go ahead and take Javonte Williams. I just think Javonte Williams has a real chance to hang on to that role. He's not super special. Jaden Blue is probably the bet you want to make there. But because I have Javonte, because I have George Pickens, I'm going to go ahead. Am I going to pick Dak? I'm going to push Dak a little bit more, I think. I'm going to hope for Dak because I really want to see that value. And someone like Keon Coleman is super interesting, but Rashid Shaheed, man. I mean, Rashid Shaheed, he doesn't have the quarterback. He doesn't have the offensive system. But a couple of things that New Orleans have, they have a terrible defense, and they have a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball in Kamara, Juwan Johnson when he's healthy, Taysom Hill when he's healthy, Chris Olave when he's healthy. We saw what Rashid Shaheed can do. And if Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener or whoever the heck is back there chucking the football, if they can just get it up to Rashid Shaheed, you see kind of, Brandon Cooks is someone else that you need to look after. Rashid Shaheed, we weren't looking there. We're looking at the game log and what he did just last year when healthy. 5-4-5, but then 11, 9, and 7 targets, 3 touchdowns in his 6 games that were healthy. And he even, went out a little bit and didn't play his full allotment in that week 6 game against Tampa. New Orleans is going to be in a ton of shootouts because they have to be. And if they're going to score, it's going to come from Rashid Shaheed. So I'm really happy with that. And then I have options, right? We have, I think Drake May is gone. Yeah, we see all the quarterbacks going now. Drake May is actually still on the board, which is nice. So he's an interesting one to pair with Diggs. I really love J.J. McCarthy this year, although I don't have any Vikings currently on my team. So I'll need to think about that. But let's just take a look at who's on the board. We have, all of the quarterbacks, but let's remove them. Jake Ferguson, if you need a tight end, I'm fine with that. Luther Burden is interesting, but Tank Bigsby is a guy, and Nick Chubb. And let's just take a look at the note from Nick Chubb. His burst is nowhere to be found. You have to be careful with that. Woody Marks creeping further and further up, so I'll remove him from the board. Tootin, I'm not sure is going to be a huge factor. Yeah, he's kind of already dealing with injury. Kyle Williams, I like him, but I'm not sure he's going to give you the absolute ceiling that you're looking for. So let's have a look at who's left. Dak did not make it to me, almost. And Brock Purdy, you see there at the 11-6, 11-7, 2 picks falling short there. So I am going to stack. I'm going to stack with Drake May. In a 4-point, I'm very happy with that. Drake May, of course, is still young. I miss out on Tank Bigsby as a result, but I think looking at team 11 and 12, I would have missed out. JJ McCarthy is here, but I don't have him stacked with anybody. And Trevor Lawrence is so low, but because Man, that's really hard. Let's see who else is left. And of course, we are fumbling here at the end. But I'll go ahead and take Trevor Lawrence. Later on, I'll look at Brenton Strange. I'll look at De'Ami Brown, and maybe even Bashal Tutin to just LaQuint Allen, just to kind of, fill out my team and my roster. But here's the board. We'll talk a little bit about it as we go through. You see, first of all, Team 11, I know they auto-drafted, but you see 5 stud wide receivers in the play 3 wide receiver. That's kind of the way to go. Vinny B at the 4 spot also did that with a Hero RB and Saquon Barkley. I love those builds. You see, even at the 109, Efern does Amon-Ra, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, and Devonta Smith. Excellent best ball plays, those guys. And then has Jalen Hurts to stack with Devonta Smith. Absolutely love that. Listen, if you're going to invest in phenomenal offenses. That is the way to go in best ball, regardless of how many people are playing in your league. So really good builds here. But at the same token, you can also go heavy running back. You look at Team 8, Derrick Henry, Bucky Irving, Breece Hall, David Montgomery. Don't love Hall or Montgomery, but at cost, it's really hard to argue with the upside that those guys present, especially if there's injury or ineffective play from some of the other guys who are in that backfield. As the draft finishes, I'll take a breath and we will recap what we're looking at. So once again, from the 110, if we can, don't want to share that. If we can get the whole thing in here. Let's see. Did we do it? No. No, well, we'll scroll down a little bit. So at the 110, it was Christian McCaffrey, then Brock Bowers, T. Higgins, Marion Hampton, Jalen Waddle, George Pickens, Travis Etienne at the 710 remains an incredible value. I think, Tank Bigsby, if he gets hurt, Etienne automatically can step into that role. We know he can, and he's going to be a pass catcher still. Steph Diggs, Javonte Williams, or Jaden Blue, pick your flavor there. Rashid Shaheed, Drake May, and Trevor Lawrence. I do like JJ McCarthy as well. Those 3 quarterbacks for me in a 4-point per passing touchdown league are better bets than, for example, a CJ Stroud or Jordan Love, because those 3 guys, May, Lawrence, and McCarthy, are more likely to run it in, are more likely to run around. And if they rush for 50 yards and a score, then they're going to vault you into, one of the top few scores on the week in any given week. And that's possible for them. It's also another reason why I like Caleb, why I like Brock Purdy. And look, Dak Prescott, he's going to have to run for his life. That line isn't as good as it has been in years past. He's going to have to chuck it around because there's not a great running game there. So, I think Dak is really sneaky there. And of course, you got Justin Fields at the 10-10. So look, either you go early round quarterback with those 5 guys, or you go late round quarterback, guys like Jared Goff, why not? Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. Those guys you need to rely on huge touchdown numbers from them. And, guys like Bo Nix, Kyler Murray, they're going to have safer floors and higher upside weekly. So early or late for me is the way to go. You see here, let's look at our guy Ryan and his team real quick. Started out with Bijan at the 1-2. If you're going to leave me Bijan, if you're not picking him 1-1, he's going 1-2 for me as well. Trey McBride, just get your tight end. And then Josh Allen, we talked about in a long, where you have a lot of starters. Let's look at Ryan's team here. Where you have a lot of starters out there, you don't love necessarily to go early quarterback and early tight end. At the same token, look at this team. Kenneth Walker, Jamison Williams. This is my number 1 value in any draft. JMO, I think, is actually going to explode this year, but in best ball format, it's a no-brainer. Ridley, Odunze, Warren, Ayuk, incredible value at the 9th round, especially if he comes back. But then you got Tajay, you got Kyle Pitts. This is the all-value team here. I like what he's done in the beginning. He's going to have to kind of find a running back value, I think, later. But Bijan and Walker doesn't get a ton better than that. So love that strategy. Love those wide receivers. Also here, Daddy. I'm not sure what Daddy's handle is. It's my Daddy Dubs 420. Why not? I love it. Justin Fields there late. Gibbs, Harvey, Ladd, JSN, DJ Moore, who I think is undervalued, but at the 410, maybe a little bit rich. Evan Ingram, one of my favorite tight ends this year. He's actually ranked as my tight end 4 on the season. I think he explodes with Bo Nix. Caleb Emeka, And then he's got Burden, Charbonnet on the bench in case something happens to Walker. Jaden Blue could be the starter. So I really like the upside of this team as well. And then we're just going to have to look at the next squad, which is Vinny. These three squads are really well positioned. Kyler Murray again in 4-point. Saquon, Quinshon Judkins if he signs. Look, if they hand him the rock, if they give him the reins and he's the number one, he's going to be a stud. You got A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, no issue there in best ball. Isaiah Likely, tight end, could be better. Likely already out with injury. We know he's going to have blow-up weeks, but you're going to have to grab 2 more tight ends, I think, just to kind of supplement the Likely pick. But Sutton, Judy, Roshan has a chance. And you got Caleb Williams here sitting on the bench if Kyler doesn't perform. I like this build as well. So a couple of things when you're looking at short form. Remember, once again, number one, you're picking the best possible players. Certainly, you're not so concerned with stacking, especially when you have one quarterback, but you do want to grab 2 and probably 3 quarterbacks by the end of your draft, depending on how long it is. If you're going 18, 20, 22 rounds, as the best ball tournaments on Underdog, for example, tend to go. You want to make sure that you are getting 3 quarterbacks. If you're going like 15, 16 rounds, I think 2 stud quarterbacks is good. And then studs, I would consider guys who run and guys who are going to be starters, right? So May and Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, are stud quarterbacks. Justin Herbert and Baker Mayfield are stud quarterbacks because those guys could absolutely go off 1 week and then the next week, and then you're fine. But I would prefer kind of to have 2 guys, maybe one guy who runs a ton like a Kyler Murray, and then one guy who's up and coming and can have games where he runs and games where he doesn't. For example, if you have Lamar Jackson, you might pair him with a Geno Smith or something like that. That's kind of the ideal build I think I would probably go with. But May and Lawrence, I'm happy with that. Maybe because I have Bowers here at the top, maybe I take Geno instead of Trevor Lawrence. It's fine with me. We're in the early 20s of quarterback anyway, so it doesn't matter much. If you look at who is left here, we're not going to look at quarterback necessarily, but you can see all the other names. Austin Eckler is a guy who's going to give you a couple weeks, most likely. Rashad Bateman, 12 touchdowns, like make the bet. I know DeAndre Hopkins is there, but likely is hurt. Tez Walker is getting hyped up. That's probably not going to happen. Bateman's not going to have 12 touchdowns again, but he's going to go off for a couple of weeks. So he's a nice value. Hunter Henry, especially if you're like me and you're going to grab Drake May, Hunter Henry is a nice value there at tight end. Adam Thielen, I think, still has a lot of ball left in him, and you can get him way late. Thielen and Hunter Renfrow isn't even on people's boards. You can get him in the last round. He's going to give you 3-4 weeks potentially if he's healthy, because he's just good. You know, he's someone who can get open in the short area of the field and be peppered with targets. Bryce Young is going to be, need that. And I think Dave Canales is going to continue to lead him down that path. We saw what Chuba Hubbard was able to do last season and should continue to do with all of the receptions he was able to rack up. So, Bryce Young in another year ascending in a Dave Canales offense who has proven 3 years in a row now, 4 years in a row, to be a quarterback whisperer. Who was it? It was Baker. It was Geno. Darnold in there, I feel like. But anyway, it's also been, Bryce Young. Bryce Young took the next step. So we all expect him to do that again this year. Dylan Sampson is a guy who's going too low. I think we need to expect Dylan Sampson to be the guy in this backfield. I know Jerome Ford is the incumbent. He's going to continue to hang around. But Dylan Sampson, if you are unfamiliar with Dylan Sampson's game, just go ahead and do yourself a favor and watch some of his highlights out of Tennessee, where we don't necessarily trust exactly what the production, because the Tennessee offense in college is a little gimmicky. However, Dylan Sampson is a really nice inside runner. He's got some wiggle. He's got some power to his game. And behind that Browns offensive line, which is still very good. It's not elite like it was maybe 2-3 years ago. It's still very good. And they're a really good run blocking unit too. And they're going to need to run the football because Joe Flacco, he's got a cannon, but he's another year older. The 2 rookies that they drafted, Kenny Pickett, these are not, this might be the worst quarterback room in the league. And that's saying something because we have the New Orleans quarterback room. So something to consider there. Cleveland knows that they need to run and play good defense to win games. Whoever is the number 1 there is going to be very valuable. It could be Judkins. It should be Judkins, provided everything goes well for him. But he's going to fight whatever it is with him. And was it domestic violence or former girlfriend accusing him of physical and verbal and other sorts of abuse? I mean, that's something that gets very tricky very quickly. And if he's going to defend himself, who knows what happens in court. So Sampson, for me, is the guy to pick there. And then as we scroll down the list, there's some other guys here. Cedric Tillman in this format is excellent. Dante Thornton, we've seen lots of good hype for. We've mentioned the quarterbacks. Let's cut them out here for a second. Christian Kirk, I like as well, to be peppered with targets. And Zach Ertz at the tight end position, Ray Davis. And you're just taking guys who could ascend with an injury here. QJ is another great example. Someone who caught double-digit touchdowns last year. QJ, nobody expects him to kind of blow the top off of, and have a career year necessarily, especially with Trey Harris in town, and drafting Omarion Hampton at the same time. QJ should have a couple of games for you in best ball where he absolutely pops off. I love Arroyo this year. Pop Douglas is the new slot guy in a Josh McDaniels offense, so sign me up there. Romeo Dobbs, all he does is catch touchdowns. Why not in a best ball league? So there's a lot of good options here later, and we cannot forget Alec Pierce, especially if Anthony Richardson is still back there chucking up the ball. I saw Alec Pierce in camp running crossing routes. It looked weird because he's running horizontally, not vertically. Have no fear. Alec Pierce will be involved in this offense. It's going to be Pittman, Downs, Pierce, and Tyler Warren, of course. But Pierce is a really good later shot as well. So again, in a short form best ball league, you want to make sure you're doing a couple of things. Number one, grab guys with upside. Christian McCaffrey, for example, he's got a ton of upside. Look, Malik Neighbors, I think we know who he is. He's a little handicapped by, Brian Daboll's, is he going to last another year sort of situation? Of course, the quarterback situation. At the same time, Malik Neighbors is a phenomenal talent. We know who he is. I would prefer Christian McCaffrey, who we know who he is if healthy. That's the only option. Or Ashton Genty, right? We don't know who he is, and he could just, be RB1. He could be better than Bijan, better than Gibbs, better than Barkley. We don't know. We have to see it. Doubtful, but I would prefer those two guys in this format over a guy like Neighbors. Nico Collins and Brian Thomas are phenomenal at the beginning of the second. But I'm happy with my Brock Bowers pick. I love Drake London as well. But you want these guys who are going to pop off for you as much as possible. And T. Higgins, for example, is another one of those guys who's proven when he's healthy and on the field, 40-50% of his games, he's going to be elite for you. He's going to be high-end wide receiver 2, back-end to mid wide receiver 1. He's just been, let's look at T. Higgins for a second, and I'll show you why. Tyreek Hill, I would prefer Tyreek Hill. I would prefer Terry McLaurin is a really close one, but Evans, Adams, even Marvin Harrison, who didn't put it together last year with Kyler Murray, and he's another one who may be handicapped by his quarterback situation. Those guys, I much prefer T. Higgins for this season, especially in best ball, and here's why. You just see it. Yeah, 6 targets, 3 receptions, 39 yards, not great. The next week, 6 for 60 on 10 targets, 9 for 83 with 2 touchdowns and 14 targets. You can just see it. He is a perfect for best ball, 9 for 148 and a touchdown on 13 targets. He is a perfect best ball pick. And you can see if let's pretend we had a best ball team here last year and we drafted T. Higgins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks here where he absolutely went off for you. And then 6, 7. So 7 usable weeks out of, it looks like 5 and 6. 7 out of 12 weeks. That's more than 50% of the weeks where he's absolutely in your starting lineup. And then I think wide receiver 33 here, 7 for 77. We can add this other one and make it 8, where he's definitely finding his way into your lineup for you. I love those numbers, right? So from T. Higgins in the 3rd with the potential to, number 1, be healthier. Burrow is healthier. The defense is worse with Trey Hendrickson still holding out and potentially not being there to run the football. That offense is going to have to do what Joe Burrow is capable of doing, and they did their best to fortify the line. It's not good, but it's got to be better than last year because it was awful. I just think T. Higgins is absolutely going to crush this year in best ball. And, wherever he falls in your redraft, maybe 4th, 5th round is a really nice value for T. Higgins, but I'll take him over these older guys. and guys like Marvin Harris and DK Metcalf because of what Joe Burrow brings and just how good T. Higgins is. Jalen Waddle, we talked about him already. Pickens on a new team, but a better offensive team given the quarterback situation he had to deal with. And then Steph Diggs as well, coming from, of course, Buffalo, then went to, where did he even go? I don't even remember where he went for like a hot second. Was it Vegas? No, it doesn't matter because wherever he ended up, where did Steph Diggs go? Why am I blanking on this? It was forgettable wherever it was. Houston. Oh, yeah. Well, he hurt himself. He was awesome in Houston. He hurt himself, and that's what happened. So coming back from that injury, he looks great. He's got teammates already comparing him to kind of prime Adrian Peterson just in terms of coming back from that crippling injury. Looks like nothing even happened. And Steph Diggs is a phenomenal athletic talent. We know this. So happy to get him here in the 8th, and you see the rest of the build. So that's what we're talking about in best ball. Look, if you're playing best ball with your buddies, make sure that you, really just do simple things, right? Number one, take players with upside, right? Christian McCaffrey, Marion Hampton. Upside is rookies, players who are devalued because of injury risk, players who have the ability to kind of pop off some weeks and disappear other weeks. Rashid Shaheed, kind of an excellent example of that. Jalen Waddle, another good example. So a bunch of things to consider here. Yes, week 17, 16 correlation is important. You want to make sure the playoffs have a really great schedule as well. That being said, not super important when you're just talking about playing against 12 other guys. We have a few things going on. So Rory, appreciate you. Mr. Magic, thank you so much for jumping in. Redraft full PPR, Gibbs or CeeDee Lamb. It's a really tough one. I'm going to go Gibbs because RB value is just slightly better for you if he stays healthy. I know we have the injury risk here. I'm a big proponent of early wide receiver, and I absolutely love CeeDee. Nobody repeats as wide receiver 1. CeeDee didn't last year, but he can come back and be the wide receiver 1 with Pickens on the other side, with Ferguson, who is capable, and then maybe Jaden Blue out of the backfield, or one of those backs. All those backs can catch well enough. They have enough weapons, and Kevontae Turpin, you need to keep an eye on him as well. And he's stretching the defense as much as he can, both horizontally and vertically. I really think that, CeeDee is going to have another phenomenal season. That's a Gibbs can absolutely smash. So you just need to bite the bullet there on running back and take Jahmyr Gibbs, but it's really, really close. Rory, appreciate you. Good to meet you too, sir. We had an excellent time over in London for the Scott Fish Bowl. Went over there to live draft with the guys there, and was awesome to meet everybody. So thanks for jumping in, Rory. One more question here before we sign off. It's a dynasty question. Would you send Olave and ETN for Kyren? Ryan, this is a really interesting deal. I'm not a Kyren Williams fan. This is a Sean McVay system problem for me. Kyren's been great. In fact, let's pull it up here. Let's show you what Kyren Williams has been doing the last 2 seasons, because it's absolutely phenomenal. I think he's been in the league for 3, but the last 2 seasons have been absolutely disgusting. So that first season, rookies typically don't get run in the system, but we're looking at PPR, which is what we were drafting here. PPR RB7 and RB7 in back-to-back seasons, roughly 1,150 to 1,300 yards, roughly 13 touchdowns on the season, and then utilized in the receiving game. I do not think that Jarquez Hunter is a threat to Kyren Williams and his insane volume. I do not think that Blake Corum is necessarily a threat to Kyren Williams. What is a threat is Matthew Stafford. Jimmy Garoppolo is capable, and Sean McVay is really the guy you want to bet on in terms of the passing offense and getting everybody open. I just can't do it for Kyren. I really think Chris Olave, you're selling 2 undervalued guys who are valued less than their talent shows you who they are for a guy like Kyren Williams. Now, if you have a deficiency at running back, I can understand it. Maybe you have a glut of wide receivers, right? Chris Olave is your wide receiver 5. Okay, I can understand doing the deal. I think the value is fine. But for me, I think Olave bounces back in the next year or two, depending on that QB situation. He's just too good. I get the concussion scares, but I'm still a big Olave believer. And then Travis Etienne, something just came out about 30 minutes ago that said Travis Etienne is going to be used a ton in the passing game. Bigsby. So, all right, we got Liam Cohen, right? I mentioned this yesterday on the mock, but this is really how the Jaguars offense is shaking out in the backfield. We can compare it one for one to what happened in Tampa Bay last year. Maybe not production wise, but role wise, right? So we had Bucky Irving come in and basically take over all of the early down work. We had Rachaad White come in later and be the passing down back. That's kind of how it's shaping up with Tank Bigsby as Bucky Irving. He's super valuable. He's going later than he should. He's an insane value. And is he going to put up Bucky Irving type numbers? I'm not going that far, but I will say that he could be, 80% Bucky Irving, which is going to be a really good RB2 for you. Or you can get Travis Etienne a little earlier right now, but he can also play the Rachaad White role plus. And let's just take a look at what Rachaad White was able to do for you last season. Let's add this to the stage again. Let's get Rachaad White. He's not even here. We're going to have to search him up. A lot of Whites. Oh, he was drafted. And let's just look at what Rachaad White did last season. Right. Number one, he was completely healthy. There were games 15, 17, 15 rush attempts. And you see that he had a decent yard per carry in, roughly half of his games. But that being said, when healthy and when Bucky Irvin wasn't completely taking over, 6 targets, 6, 7, right? 8 targets toward the end of the season. These are the things that Travis Etienne can do. And you see the numbers that he's able to put up for you. And ultimately, if we have a healthy season, it's a back-end RB2 for you. So Travis Etienne is a back-end RB2 who's going to give you some spike weeks and be efficient in the passing game, a la Rachaad White, who I think Travis Etienne is better than Rachaad White in the passing game. We've seen it before. But then, the Tank Bigsby as the lesser Bucky Irving in the Liam Cohen system, I don't think it's a bad comparison for the roles and for the usage. I think we know who Liam Cohen is, even though he's only had really one full year as the lead OC in Tampa and 1 year coming in here as a fresh head coach. I get that. It's just really shaping up to be all the camp buzz as Tank Bigsby looks phenomenal. Travis Etienne is going to be used a ton. And really, who else do they have, right? It's Brian Thomas Jr. in the passing game. He's the clear number one. But do we really think that Brenton Strange is going to be anywhere near what Evan Ingram was 2 years ago when he was healthy? I don't think there's any chance. Do we really think that, Travis Hunter is going to, from day one, take a full complement of offensive snaps? No. In fact, James Gladstone has even come out to say, that's not going to happen. There are going to be weeks he's going to be utilized on offense. There's going to be weeks he's utilized more on defense, right? He's a great best ball pick. He could surprise and by the second half of the year be 100% player on both sides of the ball. We hope that for Travis Hunter. He's an absolute freak of an athlete, and he's great on both sides of the ball. But look, it's just kind of lining up for these two backs to be on the field all the time in Jacksonville, and I want to make that bet. So again, if the question is, am I sending Olave and Etienne away for Kyren Williams? Absolutely not. I think Kyren has 2 years tops left. I mean, he's already 25, 26 years old. Let's get Kyren's age real quick. 24. Okay. But he's been in the league 3 years. We know 26 is kind of that time where most backs tend to kind of fall off the cliff unless they're special. Kyren's not special. He's in a special system, and Sean McVay has proven that he's happy to swap guys out. But the volume is there. If you want to go win right now and running back is your last piece, go get Kyren. That's fine. But I will bet on Olave and Etienne. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here for our Best Ball 12-team short, small league mock draft here to get you set and ready for your season. It is August 4th. We are doing a mock a day here in August on the Fantasy Football Universe. We're doing tons of good stuff. We've got a Discord here. that you're happy to kind of join up. We'll drop the link in the YouTube chat so you can make sure you join up and just able to talk a bunch of ball with guys who are just happy to do it. In addition to that, we're not only going to be doing these types of regular redraft stuff. We're mixing it up a little bit with best ball tomorrow. We have Ben McCown on Dynasty Gambit, I believe, and he's going to be doing a Superflex tight end premium redraft mock draft for us. And then on Wednesday, we're also going to have a CFF redraft mock draft. We're going to do an IDP show or two. So we'll have a ton of mock drafts for you. But of course, we'll also have the regular PPR, the regular half PPR, the the settings that are from Yahoo, that are from Sleeper, that are standard, that a lot of you guys are in as well. So it's a ton of stuff here for you, in addition to all the other shows, the Adjusted Rank shows that I host, where we have guests on and do mock drafts from time to time, where we have the Debbie Planet that Essie Romero and Spencer Buckley host, where they go through college football, which is ramping up and going to be starting here in a couple of weeks to get you ready for that and all of your Debbie leagues. And then, of course, we have the Dynasty Dogs, Mike and Rich, who are going to take you through everything related to Dynasty, especially as we ramp up into the season, get all the camp hype, get all the rookie news, figure out where everybody's fitting. All of that is going to be super important. So Fantasy Football Universe has tons and tons of content coming to you daily. So please make sure you tune in August. If you like this, first of all, follow us on Twitter. That's where you're going to find out about these mock drafts that you can join. And then, follow us on YouTube. That's a big community right now. We're growing it. We're just about 700 followers on YouTube. So happy for all of the love there, but really want to try to get to 1,000 and beyond on YouTube, because we want to try to continue to do this and grow this brand. So that's it. I'm done. I'm exhausted from talking too much, but thank you very much for joining us here at the Fantasy Football Universe. I am Jeremy Schulman at FF_Rebel on Twitter. Follow us, like, subscribe, do all the things. We appreciate you joining, and we will see you next time.
Mock, yeah, ing, yeah, bird, yeah, 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 mockingbird.